Find Mike Project, and Who Are These Socials. Let's see what the Opester has been up to, shall we?
No, absolutely. It's been a while since you've covered Opie on this show.
Yeah, I haven't talked about Opie in a while, really on either show. We don't talk about him too much. But Opie's TikTok is like one of the sadder things. If you look back as an if you look back as an Opie and Anthony fan, it's sad that the three of them don't talk anymore and that the show ended before it should have. You could say it's sad that Anthony went down the political and racial rabbit hole that he went down and got so consumed by it. You could say it's sad that a guy of Jim's talent is kind of gone to obscurity on Sirius a little bit. I know he has a podcast now, so maybe that'll change things, but the show doesn't have the same attention that it used to. All of that is sad, sure. But what I find to be most sad is Opie's TikTok. It is a 60-something-year-old's attempt at staying relevant, and it isn't working. Yet Opie is so persistent with it. You got to applaud him for his effort. He never stops posting TikToks, whether it be clips of his show or him out on the street. So let's see what the Opester has been up to in New York City.
This one is called Gapstow Bridge.
Yeah, so he's out in public. This is what Opie does. He messes with people in public, and he gets a zany reaction out of them. And then, guaranteed, the clip is going to go fucking viral. Or, more likely, it's 480 views on TikTok. But let's see.
Taking a picture of the Gapstow Bridge. It was in the movie Home Alone 2. You never saw Home Alone 2? So go see Home Alone 2. There's going to be a scene with a bird lady, and it was done over there.
He's been doing this, I think one of the last times we checked in on Opie, he was doing this with, like, where Ghostbusters was filmed or something. There's been a few places where, like, movies or television has been shot, and I guess Opie gets in his mind, like, hey, I'm in New York. We have landmarks. Oh, it was the Ghostbusters, where Ghostbusters were shot, and the Seinfeld diner he went to. Opie's lived in New York City for 25 years. He grew up on Long Island. He's lived in New York his whole life, essentially. And he's like, can you believe, guys, this is where the Seinfeld TV show was based, not even shot. The diner they based the diner in the show on is here. They sell George Costanza shirts. and Opie's like, wow, that's pretty crazy, huh? Now I guess he's where Home Alone 2 was shot. And he finds this fascinating. No one else out on the street gives a shit but Opie.
So I was thinking he was just on a walk next to this place. You think he's like, I'm parking here today and I'm just going to show people this all day?
He is going there to TikTok. Yes. He's going there with the intention, like, oh, I could get some real good footage at the Gapstow Bridge. Isn't it funny how I say Gapstow weird?
Like 5 feet away, there's a girl with a TikTok where she's like dancing. Like he's just there's a string of kids.
70 million views. She doesn't even know what it is. She just happens to be there. It's got 70 million views.
There, and that's the Gapstow Bridge from 1895. They don't care.
Nice bridge.
You guys, that's the Gapstow Bridge. It was in Home Alone 2, if you need to know. The bird lady scene. It's a very, very famous bridge. People come from all around the world just, okay. All right, they're done with me.
World's been done with him for a while, I think.
Yeah, I guess the angles, isn't it? Don't these people know how hilarious it is that they're ignoring the famous Opie? I guess that's the only way the video's remotely interesting, right? And like, what Andrew Dice, have you seen what Dice does on Instagram for the last couple of years?
Yeah, he just kind of goes up to people and
hilarious. Yeah. Hey, yes. You're here for the picture? You wanted the picture? Like, all right, come on. And they don't know who the fuck he is. Yes. That's very funny. And it seems like Opie's kind of doing that, where it's like, isn't it crazy? Like Opie from the Opie and Anthony show is giving people directions. It's like, yes, it's legitimately crazy, Opie. Like, what you're doing is psychotic. There's nothing interesting that people on TikTok would want to see. It's certainly not for your audience, like whatever is left of that. So like, go back inside, man. Take care of your kids. What are you doing?
The irony is, if he got a job like working for the city as like a tour guide of that thing, like that would be a story. Like, hey, Opie's working for the city. Look, he got a real
Sure.
job. Look at this. Yeah, like that'd be interesting. But this is him just doing shtick, more shtick, always
Yeah, just
sticking it up.
Walks around. He's like, isn't it hilarious that I'm like ruining these people's days? It's like, I guess.
Well, he does it. His family is sort of the same thing, you know.
There's no. I hate to keep bringing up Rob Saul, but it's like this thing where you just think you can add nothing. The criticism I get a lot is that I talk too much on these shows, and I always say the clips are available in full in other platforms. Like you can get Opie's clips on TikTok if you want to watch them without commentary. I'm trying to add something and make my own show out of that. Opie thinks you can just turn on the camera and let other people make his content for him. Like, isn't it fucking crazy that these people don't know the gap style bridge? No. Clearly, based on that video, that happens all hours of the day, every day. It's not that interesting.
Isn't that gap style bridge just a metaphor for Anthony Cumia? Like, look at that thing that's way better than me, that has more fame. It was in a movie, it's way better than me. That's what he's doing here. He just hasn't found another Cumia, so he's like, maybe this bridge will be Cumia. Maybe this maybe this lamp will be Cumia.
Maybe I'll come to the bridge every day and let the bridge be really funny and do some impressions and talk politics.
This was called The Facts of Life. He really gets into this TV show, The Facts of Life.
Okay, again, when I asked who this is for, like, is it for his audience? Is it for the kids on TikTok? Who the fuck? Who the fuck is looking for... Okay, if you do a nostalgia... Like, who am I to talk, I guess? I do a history of comedy podcast. We talk about old shit on there. But you kind of... I'm not going on TikTok and giving fun facts about Carl Reiner, you know? Like, who is this for?
Facts of life. The facts of life. You know what I hate about the facts of life?
Oh, go off.
They shoved down our throats that Blair was hot. I was watching a Facts of Life rerun the other day. And I don't know. It was on. And I was just like, oh, I remember this show. And then Blair is all over the place, and she's the hot one that all the guys want to date. I'm like, ew, no. The obvious choice was Mrs. Garrett. We all know that.
It's such a hot take. Hey, you know, I was wrong because, like, even if I put clips of Why You Laughing out somewhere, like, a fun fact might actually be interesting on social media for a certain audience. I'm not saying it's gonna. I'm not gonna be the next Balin Dupree, certainly, but like, there might be an audience for that if Opie gave interesting information about old TV shows or something. He's giving like hot takes. Yeah. From 1983, where he's like, you know what? You know who's a real bitch is Blair from The Facts of Life. Hey, don't stop me. I'm not afraid to say what others are thinking.
Also, totally wrong. Blair was a smoke show. The old lady you'd rather have? This is his humor?
You fell right into his trap, Casey. Now the comments are going to be buzzing.
Well, I didn't know. I had to Google. I'm like, Blair. I'm like, God damn. There's some feathered hair, but pretty face. And then I did the ant thing, and I'm like, oh, he got me.
Hey, Opie's never been able to figure out, like, what his thing is. Like, for better or worse, Anthony is interested in politics and racial discussion. Like, it's not what I liked about Anthony necessarily, but that is what he is into, clearly. And that's what he talks about, and he has an audience that follows him for that. Opie's never been able... So every day is a new thing. It's like, hey, am I the landmarks guy? Hey, am I the old TV hot takes guy? Let's see what the next attempt is on TikTok.
Yeah, live in a bar now. How about that? Is this working? Is this good?
Yeah.
He's him and Matt Reese.
Oh, yeah, that's true. He's the beer guy now. Like,
yeah.
Oh, Anthony was always the drunk on the show. Opie, they always talked about how Opie didn't really drink. And now he's like, you know what I'm going to do is a show about craft brews. Like, but you're not interested in that, Opie.
The show was horrible from the 5 seconds I watched.
I've never watched a man in his 60s try to find himself the way Opie has.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to understand that no lane is a lane, and you just kind of do your thing in that no lane. He will not take that. He's like, no, I fit in one of these lanes. Let me just keep scooching my butt.
I assure you. Yes.
This one's called the Netflix noise. I called it because he's a. Oh my God,
This is again. He has nothing to talk about. This is not a problem in anyone's life.
How about an FU to the Netflix boom sound? I don't like that. I don't like that. Just give me my documentary. I don't need the boom sound on the Netflix.
Okay. What do you mean you don't need Opie? Every streaming service has that in some form or fashion. It's a signature. It's called branding. You know who else did it? Opie and Anthony every morning had an intro and then fucking Street Fighting Man by I'm blanking on who sings it, but whoever it is. Rage Against the Machine, I think. Every morning you played Ecstasy of Gold before any of that started. It was the same intro every fucking day. So who the fuck are you to say the 1 second? Could you even measure it in time? The amount of time that the Netflix noise is? 1 second, maybe 2. That's the stance. That's the hill you're gonna die on, Opie. Where you're like, I don't care. He's trying to be like Andy Rooney, I guess.
He's a preschool teacher. He's like, what he thinks we're a bunch of preschoolers that just makes noises and like, bong, 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 bong. Like, oh, we're entertained. Look, this man's saying
He's like
things.
Andy Rooney. If Andy Rooney was like, "Did you ever notice nothing really ever happens? Did you ever notice nothing's that bad in life?"
Yeah, you have a pretty good Andy Rooney. I think we're gonna have to put that to use.
Thank you.
Frosted Tips, and this one's not about Carl.
Joe Burrows and his frosty tips, and then some huge Cincinnati Bengals fans like, oh, they're not frosty. He did the whole time. No, then the blonde is grown out because Joe Burrows has frosty tips, and it bothers me. To his skull.
Hear that, Lady K? Now this is real war.
Bothers me. So F you to Tua, F you to his skull, F you to his priorities not being in order. Also, F you to lantern flies. They're all over New York City. Supposedly, you're supposed to squish it when you see them on the sidewalk, but I'm not a squisher.
So,
I don't like.
Yeah, Jesus, Opie, we got it. If you guys are not members, if you're a member on Patreon or YouTube, you saw that we posted a bonus episode. It was Why You Laughing bonus, where we discussed Opie and Anthony's discovery of the first ever episode of The Todd Show. So we broke down them breaking down The Todd Show. And I gave massive kudos to the Opster because I said, a lot of people shit on Opie, but this is when he was good, was going at other radio shows and kind of breaking down what was hack and unoriginal about a lot of morning radio. What's fascinating about these clips, I don't know if you caught this, because Opie does it ever so subtly. That's like his new segment is giving out FUs. Yeah. Today's FUs are the Netflix sound. Today's FUs are Tua Tagovailoa's skull for some reason. I don't know why that made the list. But
the lantern fly.
He's giving out FUs, which is a thing. If that came up in a Jocktober segment, then Opie would have made the noise, which shows you we were just lied to for all those years. He really stands for nothing. Opie's similar to Howard, to bring it to an analogy you'll understand, Casey. Opie's similar to Howard in that they weren't who we thought they were for a lot of years, I don't think. They weren't who they sold themselves as. But with Opie, a lot of people knew he wasn't that. And it's not the phoniness of Howard where Howard just wanted to be accepted by everyone. Opie just had nothing, so he was guessing as to what people wanted to hear. And now that he has no one kind of pointing him in the right direction, he's just resting on the laurels that radio taught him. So he's reverted back to, here are today's FUs that I'm handing out.
Yeah, he's returning back to AM radio time. Yeah. Also, he had a tweet today, I think, I saw. Someone posted where he's like, there's nothing, I'll paraphrase, but it's like, there's nothing now like there was on the radio, like the Opie and Anthony show, and that's a fact. Yeah, Jack. Yeah. He's still living in those days.
Well, he was he's always like, I'll never talk about Opie and Anthony again, and then every day he talks about it. So
it's all he talks about. It's all I've ever seen the guy talk about because it's all that gets reposted, and so it's all I ever see. Exactly. Do you want to watch the end of? There's another minute of him talking about.
There is no. Yeah. We got the gist.
Okay. But
I think he hands out a few more FUs.
You don't want to know the late fall excursion of the lanternfly and how far it's going to fly in New York and disrupt things? Lanternflies are important, Mike.
I'm kind of torn.
Go to blindmike.net for everything Blind Mike. Look at me. I did it. Kragers did it.